All right, a bit to get across, bringing in the Daily Telegraph's National Affairs Editor, of course Sky News host James Morrow, and Sky News Senior Canberra reporter Trudy McIntosh. Welcome to you both. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a dodgy throat, but we'll get through the show. The PM's in the Cook Islands, as we saw there, Trudy. A lot of the Pacific nations are wanting more climate funding. Well, no surprises there. That's long been an objective, and we usually roll over. More ambitious climate policies. So I think that announcement on agriculture today was done very deliberately. But we learned from that report yesterday, that AidData report, that as well as our billions, our neighbours in the Pacific are also taking billions from China. So what do we think will come out of the meeting?
Well, it's interesting. This is, as you say in your editorial, Peter, this is about trying to ensure that the Pacific nations turn to Australia rather than China. And it's hard for us to compete on the money front, if you're frank. China's just able to throw more money at this, and they hope that that means that countries are more willing to look towards them. Interesting to see who's not going to this Pacific Islands Forum. As you say, the New Zealand Prime Minister is at home. He's dealing with coalition negotiations, so he's not going to be there. Also, the head of the Solomon Islands, the Prime Minister there, Sogavare, he's the concern in terms of links with China, and he's also deciding not to attend this. So there was a potential off-ramp if the PM didn't want to go. But as you say, it is important that he's there. This is our most important region, our near neighbours. But as for the travel, it doesn't stop. He's coming home for a few days, and then he's going to Apec in San Francisco. I'll be on the plane this time next week with him, Peter, heading to be there for that crucial Apec meeting too.
Goodness me. I mean, James, this is a two-part question to you. This is really starting to bite politically. It's coming up unprompted in polling groups, I'm told. I hear people as I get around the city talking about it, again, unprompted. But also, I reckon it's a bit rich for him to turn up in the Pacific and say to all of them, you know, you've got to be careful about China. Don't get seduced by their money or their power. He's just come from China. He looks pretty seduced by both trade dollars, and comments like this from the Chinese Premier. Have a listen.
I see on social media of China that there are many sharing of short videos about your trip to China, including the video of you running along the Huangpu River with a yellow jersey. People were saying that we have a handsome boy coming from Australia.
I mean, handsome boy, seriously, this is all done deliberately. Come in spinner, he falls for it.
Well, Peter, you know what, I'll tell you what, I hadn't actually watched that clip. I'd read it, but I hadn't actually watched it until you played it here. I tell you what, Anthony Albanese, Peter, strikes me as a very cheap date here, because he has fallen for the oldest trick in the book, this sort of flattery, you know, and we don't know all the different ways in which China is going to take advantage of this, because it feels very much like Albanese is much more interested, and I think this has always been a Labour issue when it comes to foreign policy. They see it solely through the prism of domestic politics and domestic headlines. So he thinks he's gotten some wins on wine and lobster. He had Don Farrell holding crustaceans up in Shanghai the other day. Great. But, you know, what is this actually going to wind up meaning for Australia, for our security, for our economy? And I really just worry that they're laughing at the PM in Beijing now.